I'm having one time with Monty Nefero, and I'm going to put him in a crossface chicken, and he's going to go down right now. Yeah.
I like the superset, okay? What the doing with my weights? Leave my 45s on the Smith machine, mother.
All right, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty Nefaro, seen only here out of Indie Music TV. The View host slams irresponsible Sarah Palin for eating out while COVID positive.
Wow.
Basically giving the finger to New Yorkers. The host of The View were pretty annoyed with Sarah Palin. You remember Sarah Palin?
Sure.
Good-looking
Absolutely.
older lady.
Absolutely.
Or younger lady,
I
depending on
remember
your age.
Sarah Palin. Sure.
On Thursday, it was revealed that the former governor of Alaska went out to eat while knowingly knowing she was COVID positive.
That's rough.
Palin was first started dining indoors in a Manhattan restaurant over the weekend despite being unvaccinated, according to the moderator, Ms. Whoopi Goldberg.
Okay.
She's privileged and is an arrogant, entitled person, so she thinks she could do whatever she wants.
Right.
Joy Behar said, adding that the politician is dying for relevancy.
Wow.
Palin then returned to the restaurant on Wednesday to apologize and was allowed to dine outdoors. This left the panel of The View baffled and destroyed. What are your thoughts on that, buddy?
What are my thoughts? Oh, boy, you're really unleashing me here. She's a privileged and an arrogant, entitled person, says Joe Behar. From what? From her penthouse apartment view?
Stinger's in the house.
Wait
What's
a
up?
minute. Wait, what's up, Stinger? Wait a second here. She's calling somebody else an arrogant and entitled person. Yeah. Have you seen the people on The View?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen them?
Yes.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to get over their castle mansion wall, and we'd be beaten up by the security guards. But they're not arrogant and entitled. No entitlement going on here with The View. No, of course not.
Sure. Did you catch on Hannibal's channel, and people should tune into it, as Blaze eats a beaver tail? Those are the videos he's putting on. Blaze eating a beaver. Eat that beaver tail.
Does she
and I'll eat your beaver.
Does she throw some seasoning at least on it to mix up the video, make it interesting?
Your beaver tastes better than mine. I am Hannibal. Watch my podcast.
Watch my beaver. Watch my beaver. I wanted to...
This week on Hannibal, Blaze eats a beaver tail.
That's great. What, 2 views? Hers and his? That's all.
Well, you know, that had like a lot of views.
That's pretty rough.
People like
man.
to watch Blaze eat beaver.
That is really rough. That's...
Where we're welcoming author L.A. Taylor. How are you, my friend? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Were you always athletic as a kid? I mean, growing up?
Yeah.
So when you hit the weightlifting, was that just a natural transition, I would assume, no?
It was awesome. I mean, I just bloomed too. I mean, it's a great thing for women to get involved in, self-esteem wise, physique wise. Here I am, 60 years old, still doing it, 30 years, never a day off. Actually, Kevin and I owned a gym together in the Florida Keys, Froggy's Fitness. We did that for a decade, and yeah.
Did you ever have to put a guy in his place? Like, at some point, you must have had to turn to somebody.
What do you think?
You know what? Shut up! Give him a smack.
Think?
You give him a smack across the room.
No, I like the superset. Okay, what the doing with my weights? Leave my 45s on the Smith machine, mother. I remember guys mostly, they would try to push me off the weights. And that's where my attitude came from. And that attitude moved me forward to where I am now. And I am not passive at all.
Let me ask you that. Did you have a self-esteem issue and that's why you started lifting weights? Or
Probably,
was it...
I think most women do when they're young. They don't outgrow it, 30 years old. I started lifting about 32. And yeah, it really it blooms. You feel good about yourself. You empower and liberate yourself.
Do you ever
Absolutely.
do you ever wish that you started younger? Because I'm surprised 32 is like, usually like Mike.
Well, I had kids. I was a mom.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you had enough weightlifting to do already. Okay, all right. I can see that. There you go.
Does Kevin ever come into your gym and say, how many more sets do you have? And
Like
you
stand
smack him
there with his
around?
arms folded, like,
Oh,
yo.
no, he'd say, no,
What a
you know what he
gentleman.
would do
He's
to
a
me?
gentleman.
Oh, you could do the 85-pound dumbbells. Go ahead. You
There
can
you
do
go.
it. Come on, push it.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. Snap.
What makes you go into professional wrestling, and how do you get your start in professional wrestling?
Well, I wasn't in professional wrestling. I went to wrestling school. I actually went to wrestling school with Glenn Jacobs.
Okay.
We went to Larry Malenko school, and Dean Malenko was the teacher of that school at the time. I became really good friends with Larry and Glenn. And I couldn't wrestle Glenn. I was the only girl in the school. I wrestled Prince Iakia. Is that his name?
Sure.
Yeah, he was the only one, and Dean too. They would get in the ring and teach me some moves. I didn't like being in the ring. I liked doing it as a sport. I didn't like being the entertainer part of it. That was not my thing. But that was coinciding with bodybuilding. It was just I was doing sport.
Did it come easy writing this book, or were there struggles at times? Did you say to yourself, what have I gotten myself into, or did it come naturally?
I think bodybuilding helped that because once I put in the seat, I sat there for 5 years, 8 hours a day, and I did it every day.
Okay. Okay.
At 3 o'clock, I listened to Frank Sinatra, had my drink, and the wheels kept on spinning, and that was my day every day for 5 years.
Were you approachable, or did you turn into Jack Nicholson from the Shining?
Shining?
You're disturbing me.
I didn't leave the house.
Okay. And how long did it take you to write the book? The total amount of time?
It took me 4 years, actually.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. 4
Yep.
years. Beautiful.
How many
4 years.
How many books do you have under your belt right now?
This is my first one.
This is the first one.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
great.
Yeah.
Star the wrestler.
Yeah.
And pro wrestling superstar who we love, Andrew Anderson, and a hell of a singer.
There he is.
How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to see you. I haven't seen your face in a long time, my friend.
Don't you miss it?
Well, I got a real quick question for both of you. Do you guys enjoy eating beaver sandwiches? What? Beaver tail sandwiches?
Oh,
Beaver
Oh.
tail.
There we go. Just
you
for
mean
the
beaver tail? Yeah.
just for the record, I haven't been to Canada in 6 years, and I'm not back anytime soon, as far as I know. Just in case fans are missing him.
There you go.
There he
The
is.
devil.
So at the Great North Wrestling event, with every ticket sold, get a free beaver tail sandwich signed by Hannibal.
With lotion in the basket.
All right, enough messing around.
Yeah.
So LA wrote this wonderful book, which I'm excited to read. Andrew, I know you read it. Can you give me a quick synopsis to the fans, what the book's about and why they should get it?
Well, way back in the early 1920s, 1930s, pro wrestling was located in all port cities across the world, and it was basically mob run. Pro wrestling was mob run, just like it was regulated it was regulated by sports athletic commissions, as was boxing, but the mob pretty much had control of it. Now, the stories in old school, if you really are a wrestling historian, or if you know the stories about the territories and the characters from Paul Bowser to Paul Bosch to Vince McMahon Sr. to Eddie Graham, all the way down to Sam Munchnick, Vern Gagne, the names have been changed, not necessarily to protect the reputations or the people involved, but just so we can make it a little bit more interesting. Some of the stuff was Linda can describe where she got more of the characters from. It's all from the fertile mind and imagination of Kevin Sullivan. But Kevin is a wrestling historian, and we just wanted to make sure that wrestling history was preserved. But this is more, we're opting more for to get this put out as a screenplay for a Netflix series. or a Hulu series, or even an HBO original series. I mean, because it's something that we've been. Well, Linda's been writing it for 5 years, and I've been trying to get her to put it out for the past 3. And then a year ago, she finally got a publisher and got it put together, and we sort of got it out there. And it's just something that we really, really have been trying. Linda's obviously, Kevin was the brains behind all the stories and the twists, the angles, and the history involved. Linda was the glue that gelled it all together and put it into words that flow so beautifully out of that book. Because I mean, once you read the book, you get hooked. You can't stop at just chapter 1. You just go through. So you got to binge read the book because it all comes together. And as you start reading that book, you will realize who is who in pro wrestling history. What characters, who the Sheik is, the original Sheik, not the Iron Sheik, the original Sheik, and Detroit and everything. It's all just put together so well, and it flows. And there's a lot more history as wrestling evolves, or as I say, wrestling devolves. It becomes a fertile ground for further books. I mean, over the years, this is just one era. And Kevin's lived through, almost 6 decades of wrestling. So
7, actually. It's going into 7.
Yeah, wrestling. So now all that experience and all that knowledge and all the stories and everything that happened, the politics, all the way down to the literal political characters, figures, and seedy mob-like characters to promoters, and because we all know promoters are for the most part, cut from the same cloth. They're out to make money. And it's the mob always has a habit of getting their hands in stuff in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, the 20s. I mean, it was the way things were. People kind of knew that wrestling was, they said it was fixed back then, but like Bill Apter said, for something to be fixed, it had to be broken. Wrestling was always on the cusp of suspension of belief. But the mob utilized that, and they took advantage of people, and people would actually bet on pro wrestling back then. And
Kevin is still prevalent in the wrestling business, which brings him into 7 decades. Mm-hmm. It's pretty remarkable. And I got that was a treasure trove of information for me. And as I started to question him and interrogate him, the motion picture just went crazy in my head. I started putting on paper, and it is a great story. I did not make up the story. I did elaborate it. I did fictionalize it, but it is a great story. And it is about the history, which needs to be preserved, because this business, you got to remember, it chewed guys up and spit them out. And that was the whole reason for me to write this book.
It flows like a screenplay. It was written originally as a screenplay.
First of all, I wrote it in a male voice because that book needed to be written in a male voice. So we're not women in the business. They considered them. They called them. I've got newspaper articles and personal letters from the Santos families. I've got files of these newspaper articles from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. And I mean, that was my research. Just look at how they applied it to the newspaper. Those sports writers spun that remarkably. And so, yeah, it's just that world was different than it is now, and it needs to be preserved. And people need to remember. And there's people, they make a living off talking about that. That's time past, and it was a great era. It was a great era.
How did you and Kevin meet, Lynn, if I can ask?
Oh, what do you think? In a gym. He said I leaped over like a gazelle. Spot me, huh? Yeah. He dropped away doing a skull crusher. Did I leap over? Whatever. Harry Smith's we met. Harry Smith's in Tampa.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you know who he was? Did you know who he was?
I knew he was a wrestler with that bleached out, washed out look.
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
Man. That's oh, boy.
Sorry. I said, boy, this guy's this guy's weathered the road.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, you know, he's the devil. What can I say?
That's why I'm not
Married
saying
to the
anything.
devil.
I'm not messing with the devil.
So
Are you kidding me?
I gotta ask you. So we've gotten to know Kevin.
Kevin's
and
awesome.
Through Andrew and everything
Great
else.
man.
Really great guy.
He's awesome.
But like, what's like a night hanging out with Kevin Sullivan? Does he like just talk about wrestling 24/7 and you're like, just
He
shut
used to.
shut
Well,
up?
That's where. No, because I'm his wife. But
Okay.
he can't hear, and he's on the speakerphone. So yes, I hear it 24/7.
I mean, do you
I
turn
hear
the corner and
everything. Everybody he's talking to all day long since he got a cell phone.
it doesn't get crazy though? You don't like turn the corner, go in the kitchen. He's got the makeup on. I mean, there's nothing like that though. Right? I just want to make sure.
He's not the Chris. He's not the scary clown.
But
He's the devil.
he's the devil. No, I figured he'd have something on his face, like you know.
kidding?
Oh my God, I'd be afraid.
By the way, LA,
I'd be afraid.
I have to ask you this question. Donna Barber's asking, do you assist people with their autobiographies? And if so, can you help Hannibal write his autobiography?
No, just because I have a beaver doesn't mean I'm going for the beaver.
LA, can you explain to the fans why this is a must-read if you're a wrestling or a mob
First
fan?
of all, every good story starts with a mob character. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right.
So, and as I started to do the research and I started to look into it and I started to listen to my husband, and then I looked at the antitrust lawsuit in the 50s. It was elementary that it was mob. And like I said, the timeline, with the information Kevin gave me, and then I started to fictionalize it, and all this historic just landed and fell perfectly into the whole timeline. And that motion picture went in my head, and it was like, yeah. And you asked me before, I wrote it in a male voice, but I also did write it for TV because it is The Sopranos meets professional wrestling. I mean, and they're all amalgamated characters. It is fictionalized. They're amalgamated. They are a string and a fiber of every little person or every little story. And I did recreate these characters. So, yeah.
And Andrew, you've been on Gotham. I mean, how hard is it? You know, obviously this sounds awesome, and you want to get it to Netflix or somebody like that. How hard is it to get it to the ears and eyes of a big time producer like it at Netflix?
Now we're shopping it around to various producers. Actually, with screenwriter who wants to try to adapt it. Even though Linda wrote it as a screenplay, they're going to change it anyway.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're shopping it around. We have an agency that we're going to be working with, and we're going to shop it to Netflix and a couple other places and see what happens, man. Our home shopping network wants to produce it and put it out there. It'll be something new. And, you know, I mean, look, this was from an era when the only three things you had on TV was horse racing, boxing, and pro wrestling. The rest were all game shows. Okay?
Right.
So now we're gonna explore that you know, I mean, you have all these shows now. You got stuff on the 1950s. You got stuff. You go back in time now to The Sopranos in the 60s and the 70s. They're going back and showing that. Why don't we show how wrestling evolved into what it is today?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This shows how it began, how carny it was. And yet the carny portion of it was enhanced by the sleaziness and the seediness of these mobsters, which were like Lucky Luciano, which were like Al Capone and other people. You know, I mean, and then you have the rich history like the Toots Mondt, the Vince McMahon Sr., Paul Bowser, Paul Bosch, Sam Munchnick, the whole California territories, the LaBelles and everything. I mean, they're all from port cities. That's the one thing that Kevin always stresses and Linda always stressed to me, that if you notice, all the mob stuff was always in port cities, in Chicago. You know, I mean, it was always like that was the way it was. Detroit with the Sheik. So you always had that one common thread.
You make this baby, right? It's your baby. It's this 5-year,
baby.
right? Your hard work.
Yeah, but 4 years worth of labor? Ow!
That is a long time.
That's a big baby.
Go on.
Go on.
Anyway, I don't even know how to answer that.
Yeah, well, you know.
You've already made a fan out there. Vincente Guerrero says he loves your accent.
I'm Connecticut.
That's
Is that an
how
accent?
exotic.
Is that an accent?
I used to, you know, the way the Thing looked like I used to think the Thing was a giant cheese doodle of Fantastic. I would watch these Viewmasters until I realized then there was reruns of Batman with Adam West, and then it was like this is Superman, and I would see all this stuff, and then comics, and then I totally fell in love with Captain America.
The question I have now, L.A., when was the first day you met Andrew Anderson, and what was your first thoughts of Andrew Anderson?
Boy.
Andrew, when did we finally meet? Because we were like phone pals, and you met Nicole before you met me. Oh, you went to Nigeria with Kevin. That's when you first met Kevin, right?
First met you, and we first started talking. You and I first started talking since 2011, but we didn't meet actually till just this September. Physically meet.
We went to Vegas together. Yeah.
And we raised hell in Vegas, right?
I got to understand this. You knew each other since 2011, but you never met physically until last year.
I've been busy writing a book. I don't leave the house. What do you not understand?
That's right. That's right. She was doing The Shining.
I'm a recluse.
There you go.
Yeah, I think Kevin broke her legs and made her finish the book.
Is that what it was? Wow, he's rough.
Yeah, it was like that movie with
Misery? Misery?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No,
By the way,
you know what? One thing about Kevin is he used to say, because I didn't know a lot of about the wrestling business, and then I record him, and he'd say, "Where the you get that? I never told you that." I said, let me replay it.
Press
or then
play.
he'd say, "How do you not know that?"
L.A., so you finally meet Andrew. Am I assuming you met him at the Cauliflower Alley Club?
Yes, I did.
So here's a question for you, not that you're not into wrestling. What kind of freaks go to the Cauliflower Alley Club?
Here we go.
Tell me from your
Andrew,
perspective,
sign my shoe.
the freaks that show up there.
And you can
at the
answer that question.
Andrew's going to be nice. He's going to be nice. Go ahead.
When I start bringing Linda to the Comic Cons, she has seen nothing. Cauliflower Alley is normal.
That's true. I've been to those comic book conventions. Yeah, that's true.
Cons and art shows, you see all the freaks, geeks, midgets, and pretty ladies. Worse than pro wrestling.
Those are little people. That's little people to you.
Andrew, what's very important to us is I need to know one thing from you, sir. Which do you like more, sushi or sashimi? Or do you not want to really take a choice here and you want to stay neutral?
What the
Listen, I've been neutral through
Or
everything you
beaver
guys.
tail.
Andrew feels strongly both ways. He likes both sides of the beaver. I don't understand this. What's going on here? Oh, my God.
You know about me, and you know this. I stay neutral. I'm like Switzerland. I stay out of all the bull. I keep my reputation clean. I don't do anything. I try to keep everybody happy. That's what I try to keep the peace.
We understand your position, but real fast, what's your take on SWE Fury exploding like after reading White Castle?
That's exactly what happened. It exploded and ruined everything else and caused new galaxies. Because I mean that had potential, man. That had real great potential. I don't know. There was a lot of chicanery going around there. I would love to know really what happened myself.
Is it that menace? Is it that menace who resides up in Canada, or is it just wherever he goes, or no, is something else? Okay, just checking.
That was the start when Hannibal broke off with them. That was the start of it. That was the first swirl as it went down the toilet. You know, I just love working and getting out there, and I love treating people with fairness and kindness and love and respect, and that's what it's all about. And you know, I don't like to go out and mudsling. Sometimes I do have my opinions, and I get pissed off, and people mistreat me and treat me like.
Well, I got to tell the fans out there, Andrew. After that promo, I've read LA's book, and it's excellent.
And I got a beard. Look at me. I was clean shaven when this started. That's great. That is great. Oh man, Andrew, you forgot to mention your awesome, in the dungeon right here on the Monty and the Pharaoh
That's
channel
right.
with Kevin Sullivan. Hello.
Now known as the Purple Haze, alongside the devil himself, the Taskmaster, the Prince of Darkness. Right next to him, Matty Rock, who's producing the show, the cigar aficionado, bourbon lovers, and everybody. We're having a little bit of everything. We haven't had Linda on. The only reason why we hadn't had Linda on because we didn't want to make it look like it was blatant nepotism. I want to write a song with Wisteria Hall.
Wisteria, you want to write a song with me and the Bartman?
LA, quick question.
off on the table.
On March 5th, your husband will be in studio. Will you be coming up here with him?
What day is March 5th?
That's on a
Oh,
Saturday.
he's coming to New York?
He's coming to New York. Are you coming with him?
Maybe.
I think you should.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to hit you with something called the Pharaoh's final question. It comes out of his head. It's not scripted.
Oh, here we go.
Let's see what he's got to say. Here we go. Pharaoh's final question.
All right, this one's for L.A. L.A., how hard has it been over the years living? Not just, obviously you're married to a legend, but how difficult was it adjusting to the fact that wrestlers are always on the road?
On the road? Oh, that's the easy part. It's when they're home that gets fucking hard.
She's really cool, man. She really is. She's all right. Okay. All right. So most of the time it's like, hey, we'll watch the Cartoon Network, drink some beers, and write this novel. Very good. Very good. Okay. That answered that.
My God.
You got one for Andrew? Wait a minute. I got one for Andrew.
Go ahead.
Hey, Andrew, when is Ace Frehley coming on Monty and the Pharaoh? That's what I want to know.
Comments on that.
What?
Comment.
He's playing Switzerland. Do you believe this guy?
All joking aside, I don't want you to. I know how sometimes you take things a little personal. So
He does.
No, that's Jimmy Farrow.
Are you starting with
He
me
starts
live on the
suing you,
air?
Jimmy.
And now he's looking at. Don't you give me the Gene Simmons tongue. I want Ace Frehley. Forget Gene Simmons, and you better not bring the fake Frehley guy.